Today I want to show you how to make a very simple pizza that does not require any yeast, and you probably have everything you need at home. First we're going to gather flour, baking soda and baking powder, sea salt, black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, basil, thyme, and crushed red pepper. Now we're going to prep our dry ingredients. We got about 125 grams of flour. And then we're going to follow that up with our quarter teaspoon of baking soda and teaspoon of baking powder. Now we're going to get our salt in there. And I have approximate measurements on the screen, but I just tend to eyeball it. And there's our pepper. Then we're going to follow that up with some garlic powder. A little bit of onion powder up next. And then we're going to get some leafy greens in here with some basil. And the last but not least, we have our thyme. We're going to get all those dry buddies to know each other, and we're going to give them a quick whisk with a fork. Now we're going to add some water. I added about 160 grams of water total. The key is to add it slow and allow the flour to mix, just so you don't oversaturate the dough. After we get all that water in there, we're going to use some oil, and we're going to put that on our fingers. That's going to prevent the dough from sticking to our hands as much as it's going to. And then we're going to grab the dough. Notice it's very tacky. That's what we want for a pizza dough. And we're just going to slowly knead this. It takes a little bit of time to get that flour out, and I'm being very careful to not dirty my fingers as much as I am. Never kneaded before, it's a slow process. You just want to fold the dough on top of itself over and over again. After we get it going, we can still see the dough is tacky, and it's a lot easier to move it around before. And then if we want to test if it's kneaded enough, we're going to roll out a little disc. We're going to slowly stretch it out. And after you get it nice and stretched out, we're going to check it with the thin window pane test. So if you hold up a flashlight, not there because that's the crust, right there, you see how it's very bright. Next we're going to start prepping the baking portion of this pizza. We're going to throw some aluminum foil on a baking sheet, make sure it's all folded nice and pretty, and we're going to turn on the high broil, that's about 500 degrees, and we're going to move this rack because it was in the wrong spot. We want it on the second highest position, and we're going to throw that in there to preheat. It's just like a pizza stone. Now we're going to select our toppings. I got some Rao's marinara, best sauce. We got some pepperoni, some Parmesan cheese because I'm feeling fancy, and since I'm not feeling fancy and we have no mozzarella, a little Colby Jack. If you want people to think you're crazy and you're using shredded cheese, you put it in a strainer and you wash it off a little bit, you get all that cornstarch off that's supposed to keep the cheese from binding, and it melts a lot better and tastes slightly better. Now we're going to prep it for our pre-bake, or par-bake if you're fancy. We're going to throw some oil into a pan, and we want this ripping hot eventually. So we're going to start preheating that, and keep one of these handy because we're going to use it later. We want to spread that oil out a little bit. It should be olive oil, but we only have canola oil. And after that's all spread out, we're set. If you're wondering why I didn't tell you to preheat earlier, it's because I'm a big proponent of clean as you go. We're going to re-stretch our dough out now that our pan is extremely hot, and we're going to throw that right on it. Make sure you move it around a little bit, get all that oil underneath. I'm stretching it out a little bit. Be careful with your fingers, it's very hot. Remember that turkey baster we used? Now we're going to brush some oil around the edge of the crust. This will help us a lot when we flip it, and it'll brown even nicer for that crunchy crust. And if you're feeling fancy, you can throw some garlic on there. Now we get to see the first part of our work. If we flip it over, it's nice and browned. Now I prefer to turn the heat off here because we can cook with the residual heat. Now we get to flip it over and look at the crust after we cook it, and look at that nice brown on it. Now we're going to throw our sauce down. Once again, Rao's. It's one of my favorite sauces. And after we get that on the pizza, we're going to give it a nice little spread. Now we're going to season our sauce a little bit. I'm going to put some crushed red pepper for a little kick. Throw some more salt on there. If you couldn't tell, I really enjoy seasoning stuff. And to top it all off, some more leafy greens with the basil. Now comes the most iconic part of a pizza. We're going to throw down some of that Colby Jack cheese. That's about the right spread, but you could put more because everybody loves cheese. And on that note, we're going to put some Parmesan on there for a little extra kick. Personally, I love some pepperoni on pizza, so I'm going to throw down one of these big pepperonis. Now time to get blasted by some scorching hot oven heat, and I'm going to put down some cornmeal here. You can also use flour, but most pizza places use cornmeal as it gives it a nice little crunch on the bottom. Now comes the hardest part. We're going to shimmy shake our little pizza, and there it is. Now I messed up the pepperonis a little bit with the transfer, so a little TLC to fix it. Now you don't want to leave this pizza. Broiling is very hot, so keep an eye on it, and once that cheese browns, you're all good to go. Notice that little brown cheese on top, and we're going to flip it, and look at that. We got so much color on the bottom. Now it's time to celebrate the fruits of your labor. You want to smack that pizza cutter, it gets through that crust a little easier, and a little flip, and we're going to cut it again. Now make sure this cools off. If you try and move it too early, the cheese will fall off. That's what happens. And just like that, we got a very simple, personal pizza without any yeasted crust and with stuff you have at home. I shared it with a friend, and he thought it was absolutely delicious.